Welcome to the course with Kristen and Allison. Today we're talking about the concept of pronoia. And as it sounds, it's similar to paranoia, but instead of everything conspiring against us or working against us in life, it's the idea that everything is conspiring in our favor. It's working in our favor for our higher good. And so we're talking about this kind of ability to shift our perspective in different life moments, different challenges, and see where life may be guiding us into goodness that maybe we didn't see through these different challenges.
We have certain plans for ourselves or for our lives and how we want things to go. And when that doesn't happen, or we run into a big roadblock or a major disruption or challenge, we often want to push up against that and fight against that and try to change the circumstance to look the way we want it to look and to feel more comfortable. And with pronoia, there's this surrender. There's this invitation to surrender to what is, to what's showing up, what's being presented for you to move through. And to do that, to allow yourself to stay in trust that there is some bigger picture here, there's some bigger purpose and some reason that this is happening and showing up, ultimately for my benefit in some way, to help me get to where I need to get to for my ultimate growth.
Well, in the moment is certainly when we are experiencing the challenges, it is painful. It is hard to see the silver lining. It can be really easy to want to fight what's happening or not like and what's happening, and that's so natural to resist. And through this concept of pronoia, as you mentioned, it's kind of zooming out into this bigger picture. And it's allowing us to get curious about what's happening or have an invitation for a different perspective than maybe our immediate response or our immediate dislike of what's happening, and to wonder what is happening here. Is there a greater purpose in this? Is there something that I'm supposed to learn from this or notice from this? Or where am I being led or guided in my perspective, in my mind, in my life? And so it's that opportunity to expand our mind and get curious, but also get curious, is this happening for the greater good for me? Is this leading me actually where I want to be going, but maybe it doesn't look like it in the moment? And is there a benevolent force? I think is such a key piece. Is there a benevolent force that's guiding me and looking out for me?
Right. Even if you can't pinpoint what that purpose is in the moment, even if you can't get that clarity, it is this blind faith or knowing that even if I can't figure out what it is for right now, it is for something. And maybe I'll get that clarity later. It'll become clear as things continue to unfold. And trusting that instead of pushing back against what's happening, surrendering in that way.
It's really an openness. It's an openness to the goodness versus shutting down through the challenge or shutting down through just making it seem like, oh, this situation was a really challenging situation, must be mean that something is like awful or something bad is happening to me, or just these different kind of ideas that we can make about the challenges versus this openness and availability to imagining goodness. And I think that the difference in this concept of pronoia is this openness to the good, but also this perspective of going from a victim in challenging situations to feeling empowered. And I think through the perspective shift of openness, we are allowing ourselves to be available to more possible goodness coming our way, and not just available, but available to see it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So coming back to this, if not this, then something better. I think we can all relate to really wanting something to happen. I really want this job, or I really want to hit this milestone, and working really hard and staying focused on that thing coming and happening. And when it doesn't, or it sometimes we even get so close to it and then it feels like it's ripped away, we're in that moment where you have a choice there. You're in this choice point. Do I break down in this kind of victim mentality of why is this happening to me? Asking why with curiosity is one thing, but asking why is this happening to me as more of like, this is happening to me. This is unjust, right? Something is happening to me and I'm a victim here and I have no choice and I have no say and this isn't fair. And why? Why me? Or we can look at it, so reframe that why. Okay, with curiosity and openness. Why is this happening for me? What could be here? So not to me, but for me. And I mean, often it's both. It's not or. It's both and. Initially it's, oh, right, this disappointment, this despair. I mean, depending on what it is, it could be immense grief. I was so close to getting that thing, or I'm so caught off guard by the rug getting pulled out from under me, or something being taken away. And sitting with that and allowing yourself to feel all of that and be with it. So we're not talking about just bypassing, but staying open and allowing yourself amidst the disappointment and the grief and the pain, allowing yourself to also, when you're ready, kind of shift or make space for this other curiosity about what is here for me. What is this situation asking of me or inviting me to step into?
Yeah, on that note of we're not able to bypass, and it's not healthy to bypass our initial emotions or experience, because that's, as we've talked about before, that's information for us. That's something that's valuable to notice and learn about for ourselves, or those that we work with or those that we love. But this concept of pronoia is related to the story that we make about what's happened, or has made about that we make about what's happening, or about how we're moving forward. And so we can't bring in this idea before we're ready. And in fact, that would be a disservice to ourselves to do so and could be harmful in a lot of ways to just jump in and bypass the other goodness of our understanding our feelings or how we initially responded to the situation, but it's how we move forward and where we go from there. Where do we go from our initial experience or our initial letdown or our initial grief for as long as you need, as you said, or as long as we need, as you said. And then it's like, okay, well, where do I go from here? How am I going to make sense of it? And there can be a number of ways and a number of different layers. This is just one possibility that we're speaking to. And I use the word concept. It's an idea, it's a concept, it's a tool that we can bring in life as a opportunity in how we think about things.
I would say for me, it feels also like a way of living. It really is woven into my life so much. It's kind of the default where when there is discomfort or hardship, I almost automatically go to
Mm,
just the trust, kind of reminding myself, this is not happening to me, this is happening for me. Even
mhm,
if I can't be curious, that's kind of my mantra. I just can kind of rest on that.
mm,
And that's always there for me. And it prevents me from getting stuck in despair and constriction.
mm,
So it's this guiding light. And I like we talked about it before about as sort of a spirituality or like this connection to something bigger than you. And you know, it's about not getting lost in the circumstance and what's happening and allowing yourself to zoom out and connect to that bigger force, that bigger picture. If you can't connect to the bigger picture, just that knowing that even as I move through this, I'm not alone in this. I'm always held here.
mm, mhm. The word trust resonates so deeply, and I could feel that in my system and related to that in a big way when I don't always have the positive spin or I don't always know what is being worked out for me for the better. But just to know, as you mentioned, like, oh, I'm leaning back into that trust, in that knowingness that this is here for me. And I might not know why. This might be really uncomfortable. This might not make sense at all. But there's this bigger container holding me, and I can lean into that. And that is so helpful to have that surrender and that ability to feel that layer of support.
Right. I don't need to do anything with this, with what's happening. I don't need to figure it out. I don't need to fit it into a box or put a bow on it. I just can know that something's happening and I'm held here. So an example that comes to mind for me, a kind of a lighter example, is when my husband and I were looking to buy a house, and we had been looking for a while, and this was, kind of at the peak of the market where we were, and it was really hard to find what we wanted, and we kept finding ourselves in situations where we were being outbid and also just not seeing anything that we really loved. And so then a house presented that seemed to check nearly everything off my list, off both of our lists. And it just seemed so perfect. And I allowed myself to get so focused and excited and convinced that this was our house. And, we put in an offer that was way above what we wanted to put in. We were just going to ensure that this was our house. And it wasn't. The house went to someone else. And when that happened, I felt this initial defeat and what the heck is happening? And, not curious, but like, this is so unfair. And yeah, kind of angry, just really mad about how that played out. And so I allowed myself to just be there and feel that. And then it really pushed me into this surrender, this letting go of the need to control whatever happens. And I sat back in to the trust that if not this, then something better, right? Clearly that house was not meant for us because if it's meant for me, it won't miss me. And when it wasn't until I was able to shift that perspective and relax back into that trust that then an even better house presented that ended up being our perfect house. And I was so grateful that I had this tool, this guiding light that held me through that. And that I didn't, even though I tried to force this other thing to happen, I was so grateful that it didn't happen. And on the other side, I was able to see that. I was able to see, okay, this was all happening the way it was supposed to happen.
Mm.
But when we're in it, it can be really hard to see that. It's an active process for me of reminding myself
Mhm.
that this is for me.
I had the wondering when you were expressing how unfair it felt, if there was any glimmer during that time that you kind of tapped into this, if not this, or something better, or that was the feeling that was all encompassing and that you needed to marinate in for a while before being able to have that thought.
Yeah. I think I started just marinating in the this is unfair, but I didn't stay there long
Mm.
because I had built up this muscle of this pronoia muscle for so long. So yeah, it didn't take long before I then consciously reminded myself, actively reminded myself, Kristen, relax into trust, let go, surrender. If not this, then something better. Remember, this is happening for my greater good, ultimately, even if I can't see that now.
Yeah, tapping into that feeling of unfairness and then your shift and your process through that. I just really, I think my struggle with this concept of pronoia is for those life circumstances that are very unfair or that feel very unfair. And I mean, this is same for me. Like I feel like this idea is really ingrained in me. I look through almost every life circumstance or life challenge through this lens as much as possible. But my struggle with it is like there are life situations that it's really hard to like prescribe this to everyone
Hmm.
or say this is your journey or this is like the application for everything in life. And I'm curious how you make sense of that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Someone who's has lost someone that they love comes to mind immediately. Um, that is a circumstance. Gosh, I think about a parent losing a child. That is a circumstance where it absolutely is unfair, right? It doesn't feel, to me, if I imagine being in that space, it doesn't feel supportive to look for the gift in that
Yeah.
moment, in that experience. I, there's someone, I read a book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay. I think it's by Megan Devine, I think is her name. And it's all about grief. She lost her partner tragically, completely unexpectedly in an accident. And she touched on this a little bit. I don't know that she named Pronoia, but just this, yeah, she touched on how damaging it can be with those situations to look um, to look for that perspective of this is happening for me.
Hmm.
And
Or for a reason.
or for a reason, right? This is benefiting me in some way long term. And she says, and I'm not quoting her because I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but basically, sometimes life is just shitty. Sometimes shitty things happen and we can't make sense of it. We can't. And it doesn't make sense. And that's okay. And that is valid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just part of the human experience. And I have also heard certain people, Dr. Laura Berman comes to mind, I think is her name, who lost a child. And I've heard her talk about, of course, the immense grief and how her immense grief and having this experience through time and processing required her to feel and connect to herself and her life and her presence in a way that she never had before. That through this experience, it's like she unlocked new layers of herself. And this is just an acknowledgement of how our challenges transform us. It doesn't mean I'm glad that happened, or I couldn't have reached this transformation in another way if this hadn't happened, right? Or I'm glad I had this tragic loss so that I could
Right.
become this. It's not, that's not how we have to look at it. I think it's simply just acknowledging the process of being with discomfort. Where do you go in your mind when you think about this?
I really resonate with that idea that some things in life just are unfair. And where I went was it's really up to the individual where they go with it. And I think in that book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay, I think I listened to a podcast on that. And it was, she had people from the outside asking her, kind of, oh, how are you going to make this into a positive? Or, oh, you went through this, so now you can teach others about it. Kind
Mhm.
of like capitalizing on the challenging experience. And so I go to this place where I think it's so individual to the person or people who experienced that unimaginable loss or challenge, to decide what it is for them or how they're going to work with it or be with it in their life or what's there for them. And that it can be harmful when people from the outside are trying to apply this idea for them or bring this idea in for them. And so Laura Berman, perhaps she came to that resolution, and I don't even want to call it a resolution, but that idea of her own transformation on her own versus maybe people trying to kind of apply that for her. I don't know. But I guess it's just a wondering for me. I do resonate with this. If not this, then something better, or life is working for me, not, is working in my favor. Things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. That is something that I have seen over and over and over again in my life. And with these bigger life things, I think it's just really personal how people make sense of it. And correct, we don't always agree, and we shouldn't always agree with what happened, but it's the acknowledgement that it did happen, the acceptance that it did happen, and then occasionally and hopefully and mostly in a lot of life circumstances we can be grateful. We can learn to be grateful because we see how it's led us on our path. And I'm not speaking to these more difficult life situations through this. I'm speaking to maybe our daily life. Oh, we were late, or oh, this happened, or I didn't get the house, or I didn't get the job. But okay, I see that there's something greater working out for me here. And so with that, then I can be grateful. I didn't get the job, but then look at now I'm working towards my dream career. And that wouldn't have happened if I got stuck in my job that I thought is what I wanted. But now I'm so grateful for that challenge that I had to overcome, that loss.
Mm-hmm. This this concept, I recognize for myself the way it has rescued me from a really disempowered victim state, where for a long time I was in that place of feeling like, this, generally speaking, this was not fair. Why did I end up in these circumstances? Why did this have to happen? I didn't deserve that. Angry at the people and the circumstances that were all connected to my pain. And it was really a big shift for me to take that in, what we're talking about, take this belief in, and to be able to reframe my painful experiences in a way that for me felt very empowering and allowed me to let go of this narrative, this story I created around my life that was not serving me, that was keeping me very stuck and limiting me in all areas of life. Once I could make that connection to how my pain in this grander scheme of my life, when I can really zoom out and look at everything that happened after that and look at where I am now and where it has guided me, when I could see that understanding of why it happened, or the beauty that came from it, how it directed my life in a way that was so much greater than I could have imagined, so much greater than would have happened if it went differently. Changed so much for me. So I think that's the most important piece here is empowerment for me. and not allowing yourself to get stuck.
In empowerment and getting to take charge of our life or take responsibility for our life and seeing that greatness awaits us in our life, that there are life forces that are working for our good even when it doesn't seem like it. And I think that there's such a spectrum there. I mean, getting a flat tire versus, bigger life issues, that can take more time. Maybe with the flat tire, we can lean into that trust of like, well, who knows? Maybe I would have, maybe that meeting wasn't for me, or maybe, who knows what we make of it in that moment. But being able to lean into that trust, or maybe it's an immediate thing. We can really feel what what benefit or what's being worked on us at that time versus maybe these bigger life things. They might feel a little disorienting or confusing. It might not feel right to apply this. Or it can feel like we've been so ingrained in these more kind of disempowered stories about what happened. But if we can be open to it over time, we can reclaim parts of ourself, and we can reclaim parts of our lives through that empowerment and through that taking that piece back of like, okay, life's, all this is happening to me versus like for me. Like I get to feel in the driver's seat of my life, knowing that there's something greater holding me and supporting me in that.
That's making me think about something someone said. I want to say it might have been Greg Press. Um, but it was this, wherever it came from, this question was presented to me of how did I create this? So we're touching a little bit on this, your mind, how your mindset contributes to what you attract and what happens in your reality. And so in the face of a challenging situation, this question was posed, how did I create this? Is this ringing a bell for you?
Well, what it's bringing up is like, how did I perfectly create this exact situation that I
Yes,
needed?
that I needed.
Yeah, for this exact growth or this exact possibility. And yeah, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, depends on the person and the situation, but there have been moments in my life where that question came to me and during moments of challenge, where I initially maybe wanted to, look externally and go, well, hey, what the heck? Why did you do that? Or why did this happen? Or be mad at somebody. I instead could ask myself that question. Well, why did I perfectly create this situation for myself, for my ultimate benefit? What is the invitation here for me? What am I being invited to grow into or step into? And that for me has been another really empowering question. And it allows me to feel a sense of lightness, and just kind of even see kind of the humor in some of these lessons. Of course, like you said, we're talking about the day-to-day challenges, not huge life-altering grief. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that question of like, how did I perfectly create this? It's like, oh, like, yeah, this is just what I need, but like, this one's a hard one, but it must be a good one because it's so hard. It's really calling on these other parts of me that, like, there can be that tension of like, I don't, this is here. I don't want to have to like let go of that part of myself, or am I really ready to step into that new aspect of myself? But here it is, and here's my opportunity. And this is not discounting how challenging it can feel sometimes, or all the different feelings that can come along with that. But this possibility that it's working on us in a way that we can experience more of ourselves and more of our life in a way that benefits us.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us today.
Yeah, it's a
See you
great
next time.
discussion. See you next time.